Good morning, gentlemen. Wonderful time. I'm going to talk to you about something about India, an incident that really shook the Indian country, the Indian nation 103 years back. I'm going to talk of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, but I'm going to give you a different picture. The job of history is to record everything so that the truth comes out. And we got to have a balanced view of everything. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre was a bad thing, no doubt about it. But there were other aspects of the case which needs to be brought out and which the Indian public really does not know. Firstly, the brass tacks. There was martial law declared in Amritsar by Colonel General Reginald Dyer, who was the commander, and he was a die-hard English imperialist. What we understand is that a public meeting had been called in this Bagh, that is the Jallianwala Bagh, which was attended by hundreds of Punjabis, Sikhs, including Muslims, to protest against the British rule, in particular the Rowlatt Act. General Dyer had already declared martial law, and he went along with his troops, fired on the unarmed crowd, and the reports say that anything between 366 to about 1500 people were killed. No doubt about that. You can dispute the figures, how many died, but that's part of the game. The fact is, it was an unprovoked act. I'll be the first one to condemn it. And even the great Indian leaders at that time didn't agree with it because Rabindranath Tagore, just 6 months after the incident, returned his knighthood, which had been given to him by King George. Well, but as I told you, we must give the exact picture of what happened. Now, everybody keeps talking that the British fired on the crowd and it was an unprovoked act. Everything fine. I agree with it. But then we must remember who were the soldiers who were firing on the crowd. They were all Indians. And the Indians were the Baluch, the Gurkhas, and the Punjabis. These people were instructed by Dyer to make their bullets count and keep on firing till the last bullet. And they did that. They followed the orders to a ditto. Now, if you go to the Act, the Army Act, the Air Force Act, which again trace their pedigree to the Articles of War 1893, which was framed by the British. There's something called an unlawful command. And if a soldier is given an unlawful command, he is within his right to refuse that order. But unfortunately, none of the soldiers there were 300 of them, ever thought of this thing. They were ordered to fire, they fired and killed. They killed their own brethren. There's no excuse for it. It was servility at its meanest. I just wonder whether such a thing could have happened, for example, in Russia or England. What would the soldiers have done? But it again boils to the system of servility which had crept into the Indian nation, having been a slave for almost 900 years. First 700 years under the Muslims, and another 200 years in the British. With the result, the power to think had gone. That being the case, there was no choice for these men. Didn't occur to them that what is an unlawful command. They didn't know about it, perhaps, because this is very much there. Even in war now, you cannot give an unlawful command to execute or kill an unarmed person. It becomes a war crime. and it's codified in the Army Act, the Air Force Act, and the Navy Act. So, this is a point which must be mentioned in this incident, that the attack and the killings were carried out by Indian soldiers on their own persons. That is the first point. The second point is very easy to blame the British for everything in India. Everything bad, you blame the British, don't and forget about everything good they've done. What was the aftermath of this? I would like to compare with what the Indians have been doing, the army, the police, after 1947 compared to what happened in 1919. At that time, after the firing was over, General Reginald Dyer was told he will not be promoted. That's the first thing. And secondly, he was asked to put in his papers and go home. He went to England. He tried various stratagems. He converted even to Sikhism to try to convince the British that, well, the Sikhs like me very much. And he was presented as Saropa in the Golden Temple by the chief Jathedar. But it's got no relevance. It just about shows that whatever he tried, the British still had realized that he had committed a mistake. And the man who had backed him was the governor of the Punjab province, also by the same name, Dyer. Now, Dyer had to relinquish command. He was removed, retired, and sent back to England. The English press then later on realized what had happened, and they were very critical of Dyer. Now, the matter didn't end there. And there's something else which happened. There was a Hunter Commission which was appointed under Lord Hunter, which came to India. It had three Indian members, and one of them was Sitalwad, who was the Vice Chancellor of the Bombay University, and there were two others members, Indian members of the commission. And this commission held its hearings in India, and General Dyer was called for questioning. General Dyer was advised by his senior officers not to go and face the commission but send a representative. But he was an arrogant man and he went on his own to the commission, faced the questions, and his answers were arrogant to say the least. In fact, when one of the Indian members asked him that suppose you had taken your armored car inside the ground, would you have ordered the armored car to fire? He said, yes, I would have. And he justified it that martial law had to be imposed because there was likelihood of an insurrection in the Punjab, which was a lot of B, but all the same, that was his defense. He paid the price, removed from command, retired, sent home. But more important, the British set up the Hunter Commission, as I told you, which went in and they recommended compensation to the people who had been killed in the Jallianwala Bagh firing. Now, I don't think this is really known to very many people. The British at that time sanctioned over 21 lakhs of rupees to be paid from the Punjab treasury to the victims who had died and who had been injured. The highest compensation paid was rupees 1 lakh, and normally people paid 50 to 100 rupees. One chap who had lost a bicycle was given, who had asked for 100 rupees, was given 50 rupees. Now, if you look at the amount of 21 lakhs way back in 1919, if you add the inflationary trends, I'm not a economics, but the amount would be something around 21 crores as in the currency today. This was the amount given by the British as compensation after the firing and the killings in Jallianwala Bagh by Indian soldiers. Not very many people have publicized this fact. This doesn't, of course, justify the enormity of the crime, no way. But there was some rectification. And after 1947, there have been innumerable incidents where the Indian police has been going and firing and killing people. But what is the amount of compensation it has given Indians have got? Nothing, comparatively very paltry amounts. And the number of those killed after 1947 in police firing is 100 times more than what happened during the British times. The British were the omnipotent rulers. They were the Lord Sahib, the Bada Sahib, yes. But they definitely loved India. They made India. Now, you can't rewrite history and keep on saying, blaming everything on the British Raj and then glorifying the Mughal Raj. That is the Congress policy. In fact, the British gave the Hindus living space. It was the first time after the Muslim rule had ended that the jizya tax was abolished. The British did it. They abolished sati, child marriage. There are 101 things which the Muslim rulers never did, who treated Hindus as second class citizens. It is the British who gave the Hindus equal citizenship with the Muslims. Can you forget that? That is the history. And the second part is the British committed a tremendous mistake, a big mistake, but they tried to rectify. At least they tried. I won't say they could rectify, because as per my reports, the compensation was not paid to everybody, because there were so many people who died incognito, who were not recognized, who had no idea. Probably they got nothing. But those who could be identified, those who could give a claim, they were paid hard cash. A person who lost a cow once, even those who were having loss of property were paid, because after that there was some rioting in Amritsar and Lahore. Now, these are the facts of history. History is nobody's friend. It's not my friend, not your friend. But it is incumbent on us to tell the truth, not color it up. This part of the compensation is conveniently forgotten when people talk of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. And so many massacres have taken place now. After 47, we have Operation Blue Star, no excuse for it. And then we had the 2002 riots, no excuse for it. The 92 riots, no excuse for it. And yet, I don't see any comparable compensation having been given by the Indian government to anybody. So many Sikh pilgrims died in the Golden Temple. What compensation they got? Nothing. And the trials are still continuing now of the accused people. While there was retribution was swift, and nobody can say that Dyer didn't get his due, because after that he got a brain stroke. He had so many other problems, and he died when he went back to England. And he was a friendless man, because people realized that this man has done something which besmirched the Raj. The British at that time in 1919 were the omnipotent power in the world. They controlled everything. And they need not have given a rupee of compensation and the Indians would have accepted it. But they did it. They had the Hunter Commission coming in and it gave its findings. There was an additional finding by the Indian members of the commission. The British didn't suppress anything, but all of them concluded that General Dyer overstepped his power and action should be taken against him. But no action could be taken, was taken to be very frank, because the army was not keen. And then all he was done was he was still removed, told that his career was over, and he went back to England, died there. And the British gave compensation to the Indians. I don't say that that compensation was something great which they did. It was because the British always had a sense of fair play. That part we must accept it. When we write the history, we should write the plus and the minus, the positive and the negative. The positives are these, the negative is that they fired and killed innocent people. I close now, gentlemen. I hope you have liked this video. It's a short one. I just wanted to bring out certain facts here, and I'm glad you have listened to me patiently. Please subscribe to my video, like it, share it with your friends. I close now and say Jai Hind, glory to India.